So this is horrendous. I've been a strong opponent of anybody's ability to carry a semi-automatic weapon. You know, why in God's name is someone carrying a war machine in their hands? If you're in the army, or if you're a police officer, you know, SWAT team or whatever, but individuals, I don't think that's what the Constitution intended in the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment talked about militias and things, but it never mentioned semi-automatic weapons. And so we're very concerned about that. I'm also a sponsor of the chief sponsor of the Ghost Guns bill. More and more, and the DA will probably could give you some very precise numbers. People are resorting to ghost guns. They're kits that come in your mail, and you assemble them at home, and then all of a sudden you have a 9mm with no traceable number, with no ability to have a background check, and more crimes are being committed by ghost guns. So the president just enacted an executive order after the bill that I introduced to make those ghost guns owners of guns are accountable. And the manufacturers of ghost guns also are going to be held accountable to that executive order. And I'm pushing to codify it, to pass the bill, right? So now no future administration will be able to undo that legislation or that executive order. But in addition to that, you know, I'm a strong supporter of strong background checks. I'm a strong supporter of outlawing anybody to have access or own a semi-automatic weapon. And by the way, we see these horrible events, but every weekend in New York City, many of our young people are getting shot by handguns. Right. And so if you add the numbers across the nation, and I had the numbers here, they're like they're just horrendous numbers, right? For example, you will see that 22 kids and teens from the age of 1 to 17 are shot in the United States every day. Every year, 7,900 children and teens are shot in the United States. And people in general, 117,000 people are shot in our nation every year. That's a health crisis, not just a public safety issue. It's a national health crisis, right? And so we must continue to push hard. I mean, I just couldn't believe it that the national so the National Rifle, the NRA had their convention, and just the rhetoric and the inflammatory, unashamed pride that they take on this is just like, I was taken aback to see that just a couple of days after this, they're talking about this with no guilt whatsoever. And so we must continue to push hard. You may say, well, we're a local neighborhood. Our issues are, you know, when they pick up the garbage on time. I got up this morning and I saw that the garbage can over there was flipped over. You know, I'm going to go clean it myself after we're done with the broom and a little shovel. And, you know, you may think, well, police services, or you may think local schools, but no, we're part of a global community and we're part of our nation. You are responsible for that too. The solution is in your hand as well. We cannot do it alone, just in Congress, or the President of the United States cannot do it by himself. And so with that, you know, I want to now introduce to you our Manhattan DA, who is someone that knows this neighborhood very well, Alvin Bradley.
Thanks so much, Congressmember, and you're right, I haven't spent as much time as you have in this few blocks, but I used to live right on 151st Street. Spent most of my time in Central Harlem, obviously not too far away. So thanks for convening us. I think these are so important. And as you said, primarily we want to listen, but I do want to pick up on a bunch of things you said about guns. This is, you know, we're working on gun interdiction and gun enforcement every day in the district attorney's office. And this last 14-day stretch from Texas to Buffalo to the Q train. You know, I think about it as, you know, it's our schools, grocery store, and our train. These are the places where we are, where we have to be. These are the cornerstones of our neighborhood. And so we are in the middle of a crisis. I wanted to tell you what we're doing in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I'll start first with ghost guns, because our congressmember mentioned it and has been such a leader on it, and it's sort of timely just in terms of just this week. We had a sentence on Tuesday of someone who discharged a ghost gun, who sentenced to 5 years of incarceration. And, you know, we talk about ghost guns, they're guns, right? I mean, they shoot bullets and they kill people. And so this was, you know, example of someone who got a ghost gun and you know, was firing it in our streets. And if you are, you know, walking by, or it's a gun. So we use that title, ghost gun, because the parts clip together and they don't have serial numbers. But the important thing to remember is they're guns. So that person shot a gun in our streets, and that person's now you know, been sentenced to incarceration. The very next day, we brought a case against someone. This is sort of more national in scope. He was buying ghost gun parts off the internet, shipping them to Pennsylvania, gun magazines, the part to clip in and hold all the bullets. Because we have a strong law in New York, the SAFE Act. So it was illegal to ship them here. So he shipped them to Pennsylvania, and it went and got them and then brought them here. And so we are in the middle of prosecution against that person. We call that the iron pipeline, going to Pennsylvania or going down south and bringing it here to our communities and doing it harm. And then we call because the ghost gun, we call it the plastic pipeline. Because as our congressman said, you're getting it and you're assembling it. You know, so that's just this week on ghost guns. And of course, we had the terrible and tragic shooting on the Q train, which my office is handling. So guns is we are thinking about it every single day. We have, to tell you some of the things we're doing, I appointed for the first time in the office an executive just on guns, gun violence prevention. So we do, you know, gun possession cases all the time, but what he's charged with doing is thinking about each of those cases and connecting the dots so we can figure out where the guns are coming from. We don't make guns in Manhattan, we don't make guns in New York, and tracing them back so we can stop them flooding in. I know we have some material on a gun buyback that we're doing. Congressman said it, we're all part of the solution, and so we're asking all our neighbors, we're partnering with community groups, with churches, you know, everyone. We had a planning meeting last week. If everyone came to the planning meeting, just told one person with a gun, we'd have 50 guns off our streets, and so we encourage you to do the same. We're partnering with groups that will, you know, if someone doesn't want to bring it, we'll go get it from them. So it's an incredible opportunity. Those who are in the gun space talk about, you know, every gun off is 3 lives saved. So that's an important thing that we're doing as well. We need your help on. There's so many other issues, but like the Congressman said, we are here primarily to listen. So I'll leave it at that. And I guess one other thing I will say though, because I want to talk about the trains a little bit. The Q train was actually on the train, and just transit safety. You know, we are prioritizing that in the office as well. We've had 2 cases recently, you know, where people did tremendous harm on the trains. Brought the cases, went to trial in one instance, and the person is serving a very significant. That was a stabbing, it wasn't a shooting, but you know, harm of all its forms. So just know that as we are trying to get our city back up fully, we know the trains are really the bloodstream, and so we're prioritizing public safety there. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, DA. And the gun buyback program, the next one is June 25th, and it's going to be held on 302 West 124th Street. Now, I requested from the DAs to have one around here as well. So we should work together. And please sign your name in the attendance sheet with your email and your phone number so that we can communicate back to you, and you can be part maybe of a Zoom where we can plan it with the DA, and we can get some of the local guns here off the street, those folks that want to give it back. You'd be surprised, you can get back 100, sometimes 200 guns in a gun buyback program. And I think, as he said, you could save 3-4 lives every time you bring a gun up the street. At the end of the day, you know, there's far too many guns out there. They're coming in. I've spoken to the mayor. The mayor, his intent is to work with the federal agencies and the state agencies to interdict the gun flow into New York City. It's tough to do because someone could just bring it in their car. You can't stop every car, but we got some hot spots perhaps across the city of New York that could be targeted. So this is important. Yes, the retrieval of the gun is very important, and we must all work together to make that happen. So that's June 25th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and it's at 302 West 124th Street. The Soul Saving Station that's where it's at. So we have the flyers over here, the blue flyers, so you can take them with you, and maybe you can post them in your building in the lobby. So you'll be surprised. Some folks, you know, I have a bill that says, you know, if there's somebody in your building that is a persistent gun offender, you should know. You should all know if someone in the 3rd floor has been involved in several shootings, has perpetrated gun violence. This came as a result of the Bryce March. You may know, some of you may know what the Bryce March is. It's a young woman that was killed on her wedding day, on her wedding dress. She was wearing her wedding dress. And folks should know if there's somebody with a very violent gun possession that has perpetrated gun crimes living right next to you. You should know. I mean, there's no reason why you should not know that. So please post it up in your building. I know it's on 124th Street, but as I said earlier, we're going to try to have one right around here in this neighborhood. And with that, I introduce your new, look at that, he doesn't have a scratch in his face. I'll see him 2 years from now. Your council member, Sean Abreu.
Hey, hello everybody. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank our congressman for convening this coffee on your corner event. Very grateful. Like our DA and our congressman, I didn't live too far away from here. I was born and raised on 161st, on the northern side of the alcoves right here between Fort Wash and Riverside on 161st. I'd like to speak to you about some of the things that we're working on at the City Council. I have a bill coming out in the next 2 weeks that would require the mayor and the police department to produce an iron pipeline bill to see where the guns are coming in from, the point of entry, the type of guns, who are the manufacturers, what we can do to also focus on prevention. It's going to be very important that we focus on this, and I'll make sure we work together with our district attorney who understands what's happening day in and day out. More locally, we have issues around here that I'd like to talk about, right? We have sanitation is a big issue around here. I always speak to Peter Green, who's always reminding me there's trash on 157th and Broadway all the time. You can see it, and you can always see it around here. So my goal here is to make sure we have more baskets around this neighborhood, that this neighborhood is serviced as much as we can. And if it means that we have to go into our discretionary dollars to see our streets getting cleaned more, then we'll do that. But we're gonna work with the sanitation department to make sure that we have that done here full service. Between 158 and 165 on the northern side of the alcoves, if you notice, the streets, there are potholes everywhere. The stairs are in disrepair. I just met with the commissioner, Parks Commissioner last week to talk about the stairs from the south side up to the north side. And the alcoves itself also need repair, which is subject to the jurisdiction of the Parks Department, including the adjacent sidewalk. It is not pertaining to DOT, which was a confusion. So we're going to be working with DOT and the Parks Department to focus on the streets between 158 and 165. We're also looking to bring a loading zone, truck loading zone, between 158 and 165. Because as you notice, there's always trucks parking on to the alcoves. And that's what's committing wear and tear on our streets. On 165, there's also a crosswalk that we're working on. You can't cross the street from 165 to the dog run unless you have to cross the street to the other side, which is a huge nuisance. We're also focused on making sure that the abolitionist house stays there, which is very important to us. And yes, Jeannie has reached out to us a lot of the times to talk about the 17th floor building that's coming here. And we're fighting against that, Jeannie. I promise you. So I'm here to answer any questions. We're very excited to be taking this on. And 5 months in, I'm proud to say that we're making headway on a lot of these issues. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, council member. You'll get some of these data on inside or on here. This is the ERAP data, right? This is the amount of money that has been used to pay for backed up rent. And the map has it by neighborhoods, by zip codes, really. And here in Washington Heights, 18 million have been given by the ERAP program at the state level. This is federal funding that we sent to the state to help pay for backed up rent that accumulated during the pandemic. Hamilton Heights and Manhattan bill is 12.7 million. Inwood is 31 million. And of course the Bronx, which is a bigger footprint of the district altogether, was 60 million. So we hope to push to continue to have additional funding for ERAP, because I know this is the time when it really gets tough. I mean, we're try to get out of the pandemic and people owe 4, 5, 6 months worth of rent and they need help. So we're pushing to see, just like we're pushing to get additional funding for the restaurants. Out of all the businesses, the ones that work in a tighter margin of profit are places like this. And they were shut down, remember? And then they were open, and then they were shut down again, and you had to wear your mask and not wear your mask. So they've been under a lot of financial stress, and we should give them additional funding. In many ways, restaurants define our neighborhoods because people come to the restaurants in our district and they discover our neighborhood. And so this is an important part of our local economy that we're pushing to get more money. Now, the Build Back Better initiative that we passed really has robust funding for a lot of this, but you know, it got stagnated in the Senate, and you know why? Because there's 2 senators that refused to vote for it. Now we're looking to see how we take pieces of it, including immigration reform, a version of immigration reform, to try to bring relief to immigrants across the country and in this city. But in addition to that, there's daycare money in there, there's additional money for our schools, there's $36 billion for NYCHA. Now NYCHA's capital needs are $40 billion. Elevators, right, roof work, boilers, pointing, stuff like that that's going on in the Grinnell right there. So this is very deep pocket stuff. The Build Back Better program has $36 billion and the city has the other 4, but it's stagnated in the Senate. And we need to pass that, because the way to bring back some good quality of life inside those apartments that have mold and leaky pipes is by doing capital repairs in the envelope of the building. So when you do that kind of work, and you do brick work, it insulates the apartment from getting mold and leaky pipes and chips in the paint. And so that's very important, but that's costly. And you gotta do the roof, right? And so that money is there, we're pushing. I fought very hard for that money to be included in the Build Back Better program. And Senator Schumer fought for it as well, but it has not gotten out of the Senate. So we're hoping to take pieces from the Build Back Better bill and try to bring them back, resuscitate them, right? Give them mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And so with that, I'm gonna open it up to questions. I'm gonna go here and then there. 1.
Thank you.
Jeannie, number 2. Number 3, number 4, and number 5. Then I'll go back to you. Number 1.
Congressman, climate spending hasn't happened yet. You're running out of time. Literally running out of time.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Climate spending. Corn crop yields are going to start failing by 2030. We're literally running out of time. Greenhouse gas emissions must peak by 2025, say climate scientists, and what is in effect their final warning. And if you guys lose Congress, then we all fumbled our last chance to address this. It needs to get done. I can't believe that it's not getting done.
I agree with you. And
Yeah,
for-
well, see, I'm sorry to come at you because I know you're not.
No, I agree with that. And for that reason, I was part of the delegation that went down to Glasgow to the summit. And one of the bills that was highlighted there was one of the bills that I carry, because I think that global warming and climate change is not just local. It's worldwide. And so we can do the U.S., and we're pushing to do the U.S., but what happens with China? What happens with Central America?